What's the difference between orcs and goblins we know from the famous movies and series? The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and the Rings of Power? We will be uncovering their strengths, weaknesses, and other interesting facts. Starting off with number 1, Moria orcs, sometimes referred to as goblins, are first encountered in the Fellowship of the Ring when the Fellowship enters the mines of Moria. They are smaller than other orcs, hunched over with grayish skin and sharp, twisted features. These creatures have adapted to the dark, cave-like environment of Moria and are accustomed to living in near total darkness. Strengths: coordination in numbers. Orcs may be individually weak, but they operate with ruthless efficiency in large numbers. They swarm their enemies like a plague, using overwhelming force and ambush tactics. Dark vision. These orcs are highly effective in the dark, as they are adapted to subterranean living, using their keen senses to navigate the pitch-black tunnels of Moria. Weaknesses: light sensitivity. The Moria orcs are particularly vulnerable to sunlight and bright lights, which limits their effectiveness outside of their dark underground home. Fragile. Physically, they are weaker compared to larger orcs and can be easily overpowered by more skilled fighters like elves, dwarves, or men. Interesting facts. The most iconic scene involving Moria orcs is the intense battle in the Chamber of Mazarbul, where they outnumber the Fellowship but are eventually driven away by the Balrog's arrival. Moria orcs use drums to communicate and coordinate their attacks, creating a tense atmosphere in the movie as the rhythmic beats echo through the tunnels. 2. Uruk-Hai are a distinct breed of orcs, engineered by Saruman in the Two Towers. They are larger, stronger, and more disciplined than typical orcs. Their skin is darker, often black or brown, and they stand upright, unlike their hunched cousins. They represent the pinnacle of orc evolution, combining the strength of men with the savagery of orcs. Strengths: resistance to sunlight. Unlike most orcs, the Uruk-Hai can move freely in daylight, allowing them to wage war without the limitations of nightfall. Superior physical strength. These orcs are stronger, faster, and more durable than their lesser counterparts, making them formidable in battle. Discipline in combat. Unlike the chaotic and often disorganized regular orcs, the Uruk-Hai fight with military precision and loyalty, particularly under Saruman's command.
Whom do you serve? Saruman.
Weaknesses: overconfidence. The Uruk-Hai tend to be overconfident, relying heavily on brute strength and underestimating their opponents. This is seen during their pursuit of the Fellowship, where they are ambushed by Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas. Lack of strategic thinking. Despite their physical prowess, Uruk-Hai lack the cunning and tactical acumen of more strategic leaders, which can lead to their downfall. Interesting facts. The name Uruk-Hai translates to orc folk in the Black speech, but they see themselves as superior to regular orcs. One of the most iconic scenes involving the Uruk-Hai is the Battle of Helm's Deep, where their siege tactics and sheer force push Rohan's defenses to the brink. These savages were bred using dark sorcery, possibly a combination of orcs and corrupted men, making them faster, stronger, and more resilient than other orcs. 3. Gundabad orcs, the Hobbit. Featured prominently in The Hobbit, the Battle of the Five Armies hail from Mount Gundabad, an ancient orc stronghold in the northern Misty Mountains. These orcs are known for their large size, pale skin, and heavily scarred faces. Their physical appearance is more menacing and bestial compared to other orcs. Strengths: strong warriors. Gundabad orcs are exceptionally muscular, battle-hardened, and renowned for their endurance and resilience, giving them a decisive advantage in prolonged, grueling close combat encounters against formidable foes. Adaptation to mountain warfare. Living in the rough, mountainous terrain of Gundabad, these orcs are skilled at ambushes and fighting in difficult terrain. Leadership under Azog and Bolg, led by the brutal Azog, the Defiler, and his son Bolg. Gundabad orcs benefit from more disciplined and structured leadership, making them more coordinated in battle.
More!
Weaknesses: reliance on leadership. Without strong leadership, the orcs of Gundabad lack the cohesion and discipline needed to fight effectively. This is evident after Azog's death when their forces fall into disarray. Vulnerability to daylight. Like most orcs, they are not suited to fight in direct sunlight, which weakens their effectiveness in open daylight battles. Interesting facts: Azog the Defiler, a key antagonist in the Hobbit films, was not as prominent in Tolkien's books. His role was expanded for the film adaptations, giving him a more direct rivalry with Thorin Oakenshield. The Gundabad orcs are notorious for their brutal treatment of other creatures, including enslaving trolls and wargs to bolster their armies. The sheer size of the Gundabad orcs, especially their leaders, makes them visually distinct, with Azog standing out due to his pale skin and his arm with a double blade attached at the elbow. 4. Mordor orcs, the Lord of the Rings. The Orcs of Mordor are the most recognizable orcs in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, particularly during the Return of the King. They vary in size and form, but generally have dark, coarse skin, hunched postures, and a savage, war-hardened appearance. As servants of Sauron, they are among the most numerous and well-equipped orcs in Middle-earth. Strengths: vast numbers. Mordor orcs are produced in massive quantities, bred in deep pits and dark forges, giving Sauron an almost endless supply of relentless, expendable foot soldiers for his war efforts across Middle-earth. Disciplined under command. Although prone to infighting, Mordor orcs are more disciplined when under the command of strong leaders, like the Witch King or the Mouth of Sauron.
Send forth all legions.
Skilled in siege warfare. With access to the forges of Mordor, these orcs are well equipped for siege battles, using large battering rams, siege towers, and catapults to devastating effect, as seen during the Siege of Gondor. Weaknesses: internal strife. Mordor orcs are prone to infighting and jealousy. Without strong leaders, they can easily turn on each other over petty disputes, as seen in Cirith Ungol when Shagrad and Gorbag's forces fight over Frodo's belongings.
The scum tried to knife me! Kill him!
Light sensitivity. Like most orcs, they are weakened by direct sunlight, which reduces their combat effectiveness during daylight.
When the shadow of Mordor reaches this city, it will begin.
Interesting facts. The armor worn by the Mordor orcs is heavily influenced by Sauron's dark, industrial aesthetic, with jagged designs and twisted metal. The orcs of Mordor often bear the symbol of the Eye of Sauron on their armor and banners, marking their allegiance to the Dark Lord. The infighting between orc factions is a recurring theme in Tolkien's works, emphasizing their inherently corrupt and chaotic nature.
Release the prisoners.
Who would be so bold as to come armed into my kingdom?
5. Goblins of the Misty Mountains, the Hobbit. Goblins, a smaller and more cowardly subspecies of orcs, live deep within the Misty Mountains. These goblins are frail, hunched, and often scarred or deformed. They are depicted as crafty and agile, scurrying through their dark, labyrinthine tunnels with ease. Strengths: agile and numerous. Though weak individually, goblins can overwhelm opponents through sheer numbers and agility, ambushing from hidden passages. Expert trap setters. Goblins are notorious for setting traps and laying ambushes for travelers, as seen when they capture Thorin's company in An Unexpected Journey. Weaknesses: physically weak. Goblins are physically weaker than their larger cousins and are often easily defeated by more skilled fighters. Cowardice. Goblins are notoriously cowardly, fleeing or surrendering when faced with stronger foes or unfavorable conditions. Interesting facts. The Great Goblin, leader of the goblins in An Unexpected Journey, is a particularly grotesque and cowardly figure who meets a swift end at the hands of Gandalf.
That'll do it.
Goblins are the smallest of the Orcish race, often relegated to the lowest rungs of the Orc hierarchy due to their frailty and lack of martial prowess. 6. The Orcs in the Rings of Power. In the series set in the Second Age, Orcs are portrayed as a more primitive and scattered force, yet to be fully organized under a dark lord like Sauron. They have a more weathered, decayed appearance, with skin cracked and scarred from years of exposure to the elements. Strengths: survivalists. In the Rings of Power, Orcs are depicted as highly resilient, enduring harsh conditions like sunburns and starvation. They master ambush tactics, exploiting terrain and shadows to outsmart their enemies. Primitive savagery, brutal and ferocious. These orcs unleash unrelenting fury in battle, driven by primal instincts rather than strategy, making them unpredictable and deadly in close combat. Weaknesses: disorganized. Without a central leader like Sauron or Morgoth, the orcs are scattered and prone to internal conflicts, reducing their effectiveness as a unified force. Sunlight aversion. Much like the orcs of later ages, these orcs are highly vulnerable to sunlight, which burns their skin and weakens their abilities in open daylight. Interesting facts. The orcs in the Rings of Power have a more animalistic design, reflecting their evolution from their corrupted elven ancestors during the First Age. They are seen rebuilding their strength, foreshadowing their eventual rise under Sauron in the later centuries.
A cruel and cunning sorcerer. They called him Sauron.
The Orcs of Middle-earth, in their various forms, represent the twisted and corrupted aspects of creation, from the small, cunning goblins of the Misty Mountains to the brutal and disciplined Uruk-Hai. Each type of orc plays a unique role in the ongoing struggle between good and evil in Tolkien's world. Their strengths, whether in numbers, physical prowess, or resilience, make them formidable foes. Which orc or goblin is your favorite? Let us know in the comments. If you liked this video, please give a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to our channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.